All right, hey guys, this is Dr. Dave Nelson, the professor for the class. I usually record these videos about a week after the class starts. After you fill out your little survey, and then we had the Georgia View problem where nobody could sign in. And then, to be honest with you, I forgot that I hadn't done this already. So I wanted to go ahead. I went ahead and waited until I graded your first discussion, so I could talk about that too for a second. So again, sorry that I'm a little bit later doing this because it's always weird when you do these classes for the student because you just have this distant, an anonymous person doing your grading. I do have a little bio, not that anybody cares, but I do have my little bio in there so you can know a little bit about me. But anyway, I usually try to record one or two videos throughout the semester, so you can at least know that there is a real person. So my US one fall 2022. That way you know it's I'm actually am recording this new, not repeating an old video. So welcome to the class, even though you've been in it for 3 weeks. So a couple of quick things about the class. It's really designed to kind of run itself. I mean, you really are kind of teaching yourself for the most part. You're doing the readings. I do have a lot of lectures online, and I do try to duplicate what we do face to face. I teach down at the Bainbridge campus, which actually, based on your answers, actually a lot of you are more down in Southwest Georgia. Got quite a few from Colquitt, quite a few from Donaldsonville. No Bainbridge this time though, and a few from Camilla, which is about halfway between Tifton, which is where the rest of ABAC is, and Bainbridge, where I'm at. And down at Bainbridge, I guess I should have said I'm professor of history down there. So, and I actually, like right now, I'm at home. So this is actually Quincy, Florida. So I'm actually doing, as far as the classes, because this class, I actually do a lot of the work at home. Again, from my home down in Florida, so we're all a little bit from all over. But anyway, the class is really designed that you kind of do it yourself. You're teaching yourself, you're doing the reading, you're watching the lectures, and then you're doing the discussions, and then you guys are kind of talking to each other a little bit. I just, other than the recorded lectures, which is a lot of them, other than that, I just kind of come in every so often and just make sure you're doing the work and obviously grading the exams. A little note, and you probably already noticed this, I am a little slow. It's an actual criticism of me. I'm a little slow sometimes on the emails. So well, I guess the grading too. So if I ever not get back with you and it actually does somehow hurt you, I'll always make it up. Like if you can't email me 5 minutes before an assignment's due and then go, oh, you didn't email me back. So but every so often there'll be an email that you really did need an answer. And I didn't get it to you in time. I'll always, in that case, I will make it up. But again, I doubt you'll ever have much need to contact me too often. So again, the deadlines are all right there on the front page. I know there's a calendar, but also on the front page, when you first sign in and you click on the class, on the front page, you have all the announcements. That's really where I kind of put everything. So there is kind of there's usually links to where you turn things in. That's also all the due dates. But again, I try to use the calendar as much as I can. I do sometimes forget the calendar. And of course, you can click around. But really, kind of all you need should be on that front page. And right now we're in Unit 1, but I think I went ahead and put Unit 1 and 2 already, kind of everything you need. And then later I'll put up Unit 3 and Unit 4, and then we'll be done. So I did just grade the discussions, your first discussion. I know you're already working on your second one. In fact, I think they're doing pretty soon. Again, the discussions are pretty straightforward. I'm sure you guys, with COVID and everybody's online the last couple of years, you've probably done lots of discussions. And I know they're fake. And in that you're not really chatting to each other. You're completing the assignment. So I know it's kind of a fake thing. It's not like I really think you're going to sit around and talk about history for an hour. But they are supposed to be a discussion. So make sure that you put up your initial post. You try to be as complete as you can, and really, whatever the topic is, make sure you really try to be as full and complete. That's the bulk of your grade. So I am looking at that as the bulk of your grade. But you're also supposed to comment on two other people's posts, and it can't just be great post. I agree. That's not really a discussion, right? So try to say something, even if it's you're disagreeing. I mean, really try to, again, I know it's kind of fake, but try to actually have a discussion. And then if somebody posts something on your page or your post, you need to reply back. Now, I think it was in my other class that I'm doing online that somebody asked, somebody posted I got 5 or 6 replies. I'm trying to respond to all of them. And I mean, if you can, that would be really ideal. But, once you get past 3, it's okay if you don't respond to all of them. Because there's often somebody will get like 9 replies. That is a lot. But at least respond to the first 3 at the very least. And I'd like you to respond to all of them, to be honest with you. Now, again, if somebody put something on your thing 2 minutes before the end of the discussion, you can't respond back in time, which is why it's really, kind of important for everybody to go ahead and do your assignments early so you have time to have a discussion. So when I grade, I do look at, your initial post, and then I look at, did you, I keep track. I mean, here's the little, here's my notes here. And I keep track of, did you do 2 posts on other people's, did you make 2 comments? And a few people didn't do any. Some only did 1. Some of you did 4 or 5. But also I checked to see if somebody replied to you, did you reply back? So basically I give you an initial grade for your post, and then I give you a little bit of a grade for your 2 comments, but then I start taking away those grades if you don't reply back to people. So make sure, again, we're trying to have a conversation here. Because there was one person, I won't say their name obviously, but there was one person who people not only, put things on their post, but like they were directly asking a question and the person never responded back. So again, just keeping track of that. Again, it's not meant to be hard at all, but I am supposed to be, that is part of the discussion. Most of it, again, is pretty straightforward. Make sure you really do watch the lectures, because that's the reading and the lectures is where the tests are going to come from. I know some people try to take the test and then they grab their phone and they're trying to Google everything while they're taking the test instead of actually watching the lectures. And it's very obvious when you do that. First off, that's cheating. And if I can really show that you've done it, you're going to be in trouble. But even if it's not like I can't prove it, but it's bad because you won't get the right answers. So make sure you do watch the lectures. And that is why, and I know people always ask about this. That is why, I do have you turn in your lecture notes. And also turn in your reading notes. I mean, you do get graded for that, because the idea is I'm trying to sort of make you watch the lectures, because so many students obviously are like, I'm not going to watch those lectures. I'm just going to take the exam and look up the answers. So, watch your lectures actually, just like you would in class, just literally, play the videos. And, what's great about them, just like this one, you can shut me up anytime you want. You can walk away, do something else. You can make me repeat it as many times as you want, because you can just literally back it up, right? But literally sit there just like you would in class, take notes, type them up, which I always tell students to do that anyway. Take your notes, then rewrite them when you get home so that you can add in little details. And plus it helps you know the material. And then just turn those notes in. And there is a link, on the assignments, or you can just go to assignments, and then you'll see the link for lecture notes and the link for reading notes. So again, it's almost like extra credit for just doing something you're supposed to be doing anyway. And I started doing that about 2 years ago. And I noticed a huge difference in the grades, and others, everybody started doing better because of that. And they got those little extra points on top of it. I don't think there's anything else I need to mention at the moment. Again, looking at our discussions, you look like you're keeping up, you're making a good faith effort. So just keep kind of doing that. But again, I guess the real test will be the test. And that's still, what, about a week or 2 away. So anyway, other than that, I did look over your surveys, and I know nobody cares but me. I'm always curious about you guys. I actually, again, took notes of what you guys answered. So if you're curious about the rest of your classmates, we have 44 in here. So this is a pretty large online class. I did kind of tabulate the things you said. So I asked you some questions about your, what you're wanting to do for a career, and a few questions about history, and just a few personal questions. So real quick, I won't go over every little thing, but I'll give you the kind of the top answers. So I asked you guys what your majors are and where you are in college. Actually, 26 of you, so over half of you, are still in high school, that's always the case, but I think that's higher than normal. So we have 8 seniors, 5 sophomores, 6 juniors, oh, excuse me, 2 seniors, 8 freshmen, 5 sophomores, and 6 juniors. And actually, I think even a couple of those freshmen, I think, are actually also college. Uh, Number one major in here, because you guys are still in high school and you're not sure yet. So 10 of you didn't have a major yet. But although a lot of you seem to know what you wanted to do, 5 of you are nursing, which that's usually the number one major. 3 of you are biology, 2 of you are business, and then got biochemistry, ag ed, wildlife management, psychology, criminal justice, crop management, ag business. So a little bit of a lot of stuff. But again, being an ag school, a lot of stuff obviously focusing on ag. As far as what you guys want to do after college, the number one answer in here was something to do with nursing. But we also had several others that says something to do with the medical field, and even had 2 that want to be dentists. I think that's a record for me want to be dentists. But some other ideas. Some just want to get a job. Some want to start a family. Psychologist, veterinarian, marine biology, go to Marines, ag science, farm, plant management, own your own business, football coach, things like that. Anyway, 3. Then I asked you, what do you think the 3 most important events in U.S. history are? Like, well, if you don't know anything else, what's the most important? So the number one answer in here, actually, if I combined the 2, was something to do with the American Revolution. A lot of you said the Declaration of Independence, and others said the Revolution. So combined, it was 29 of you said something to do with that, the start of the nation. The second answer was Civil War. 23 of you said something to do with the Civil War. And then the third answer actually was 9/11, the event that happened 21 years ago. And then we have several said Depression, several said World War II, I think 11 of you, civil rights, about 7 of you, 6 said the freeing of slaves, and then the rest just had a couple: women's vote, antibiotics development, JFK assassination of MLK, the colonization of the New World, space race, Plessy versus Ferguson, World War I, the atomic bombs, the Trail of Tears, JFK assassination. Oh, I guess 2 of you said that, and then somebody said, going back to biblical times, Jesus and the effect that he's had on the world. So these are some of the answers you guys gave. And of course, they're great answers because they're your answers. If you'd ask most historians the 3 top events in U.S. history, most would say American Revolution, Civil War, World War II, which you guys are saying almost the exact same thing. I think for me, instead of the revolution, which is important, I would go back to the contact period when Africans and Europeans came to the New World for the first time and met Native Americans. Because not only did that start everything that led to the US, it really kind of changed the entire world. And if you're not there yet, you'll kind of get a sense of that in one of the lectures. Just almost everything we do goes back to that. So the other thing I like about that question, because everyone does give a different answer, is a lot of it has to do with your age, as to what you think is important. Maybe your race, your ethnicity, your religion, where you grew up, whether you're an American or from another country. Because, when you think back to the past, you can't help but think of yourself. So, for instance, most of the students that say the women's vote are usually women, because they're thinking, wow, if I went back in time, I wouldn't have been able to vote. So that's important to me. Not always, but often it's students of color that say about the civil rights movement, because again, they're thinking, well, if I went back 100 years, I wouldn't even have been a citizen yet, So it's interesting how our perspectives a little bit change. Now, for me, 9/11, because I was 29 when that happened. I mean, some of you weren't born. Most of you probably weren't born yet. I think of that as so recent that I don't know if I would put that. In fact, I know I would put that in the top 3. To me, I always think you have to wait a long time to decide whether or not most events are important. Now, if nuclear bombs go off, that'll shoot up to number 1 really quick. But I was 9/11. I always say the same thing. So I always equate it to something like remember the Maine. You guys probably don't remember the Maine unless you took U.S. history recently. The Maine, of course, was a U.S. ship, a Navy ship that blew up in Cuba. And it led to the Spanish-American War, 1898, which also led to U.S. getting Cuba, Puerto Rico, Guam, and Philippines, which we still have 2 of those. Pretty major war. So if I was to ask you in 1922, that might be in your top 3. No, nobody put it here. Nobody remembers the Maine. So 9/11, will it be the Maine, where nobody remembers in 100 years? Or will it be Pearl Harbor, which a couple of you mentioned. In fact, I bet most of you know the date of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. So it's hard to say in the future which of these events will end up being worthy of remembering 100, 200 years from now. We just don't know yet. And then ask you guys who you think is the best president, the worst president, and just simply your favorite president. I was actually very impressed with you because he doesn't come up as much, but 16 of you said Abraham Lincoln. So I do wonder if maybe you guys all had a teacher that really emphasized Lincoln. Number 2 and 3 were tied with just 6 each, but FDR and George Washington. We had 3 that said Teddy Roosevelt, 3 that said Obama, 1 said George W. Bush, 3 said JFK, 2 said Reagan, and 3 said Trump. I always say you have to wait at least 20 years to really judge a president, because sometimes they do stuff that we all like, and then later we go, that was a terrible decision, or vice versa. In fact, somebody here mentioned that Truman's their favorite. Truman wasn't hated, but he was really disliked by both Democrats and Republicans. In fact, in 52, he didn't run for office again. He could have, because he was so disliked. And yet he's often people's favorite presidents today. So again, it does take a while. So to me, like Clinton, we might can start really judging, but W. Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden, I think it's a little too soon to say whether they're great or not. And speaking of that, for your worst president, number 1 answer in this class, and it's been the number 1 answer in all my classes this fall, 8 of you out of 44 said Joseph Biden. So again, it has only been a year and a half, but you guys are judged. And then 4 of you said Trump, and we did have 1 Obama and 1 W as well. But however, the other than Biden, the other 2 top answers, Buchanan, 5 of you said Buchanan, and 6 of you said Herbert Hoover. And then we had a William Harding, a Eisenhower, Reagan, a couple Clintons, Benjamin Harrison, Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, Jimmy Carter, Calvin Coolidge, LBJ, Woodrow Wilson, and Nixon. Well, you guys named almost all of them for worse. For most historians, by the way, historians, and I would agree with this, most historians say Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and either FDR or Teddy Roosevelt are the top. And for bottom, usually we go with, and this is me too, James Buchanan, which again, a lot of you said James Buchanan, Warren G. Harding, Millard Fillmore, which a couple of you said. Those tend to be the ones at the bottom of the list. For your favorites, and again, this has been true for most of my classes the last semester or two. 12 of you, again, so what about, that'd be about a quarter of you, said Trump. 7 of you said Abraham Lincoln. 7 of you said FDR. 5 didn't have an answer. A couple of JFKs, a couple of TRs, 4 Obamas, 2 Washingtons, 2 Reagans, and 1 Truman. You guys actually read a lot. Usually I'm always getting on the students for not reading. I think a lot of those books you had to read in high school. I was trying to get you to name books you didn't have to read for school, but still, I'm glad to see you guys read a lot. I'm a big film buff. I won't go through all the movies you guys named, but I do like movies. In fact, I teach a course, as you guys saw at the bottom of the survey. I occasionally teach a course on horror films, and I always bring up movies in a lot of my classes. So, in fact, I'm doing modern history right now as an upper level history course, and yeah, we're talking a lot about movies and TV shows in there. It's interesting because, growing up in the, I was born in the 70s. So, I was going to movies in the 80s and 90s with my friends. When I first started teaching in the early 2000s, and I used to ask the same question, it was interesting that I'd have a class of 200 students at FSU, which is where I went to grad school. And I might only get 5 movies being named as your favorite film of the year. 20 would say this movie, 40 would say this movie. And that was the case when I was growing up. We all kind of saw the same movies and same TV shows. Now, when I ask you guys, what's your favorite movie of the year? Very few of you say the same movie. Or when I ask you your favorite movie all the time, almost nobody says the same movie. And I also know movies aren't as big as they used to be. I think it's more streaming shows, YouTube channels, video games. I mean, movies are kind of becoming kind of an old person's thing. But also there's so much out there with again, Netflix and Prime and Hulu, but also all the cable channels. And again, just like here, I'm doing this on YouTube, all the things you have out there. It is almost impossible for us to really start watching the same thing. I say that because I think that's interesting already, but it's also interesting because this fall, for the first time in years, a lot of people are saying the same movie. So out of 44, 14 of you named the the film Top Gun, which I saw too. And I saw the original in the theater, and I did like this one. So it's interesting that every so often there will be a movie that kind of breaks through and becomes a kind of a collective experience. And who knew that Top Gun was going to be that movie? Um, anyway, other than that, I don't think nobody said the same movie other than Top Gun. I won't go through them all, but pretty much every other movie was unique. And then of all time, again, I won't go through all of them. Some interesting ones here. Most of them from the '90s and later. So I'm not seeing a whole lot of old movies, super old movies, but there was one movie that again, not everybody, four people named, but it's the only movie that more than two people named, and that was the original Top Gun. So again, interesting. So Tom Cruise, man, he's got another generation under his belt. Then where you guys are from, let's see, 9 of you are from Donaldsonville. That was the number one answer, which is not usually the case. 8 of you from Camilla, although we got some, again, one of those is originally from South Florida, one originally from Albany, one originally from Atlanta. We got 4 of you from Tifton. I know some of you are just in the dorms and not necessarily from there, but one of you is from Ocala, which is where some of my family's from. One of you from Gwinnett County. Then we got, let's see, and Blakely was the third answer, only 3, but still, although one of you is from Arkansas, which is where my dad's from. Other than that, we got Valdosta, Hopeful, Enigma, Cedar Springs, Colquitt, Sylvester, Newton. That person's originally from South Carolina. Early County, Hahira, Baconton, Albany, Gainesville, Florida originally. That's, again, Florida. Iron City, Adele, and Edison. So anyway, I got from a little bit all over, but mostly Georgia. And then finally, because I do teach a class on horror films, I'm always trying to get a sense of what students are interested in. See, I forgot to count these. So it looks like 20 of you, now not everybody answered, but 20 of you are fans of horror films and 19 of you are not fans. And it does seem like it's about half and half most of the time. Let's see, as far as now the question really was, what is your first horror film? Everybody Googled it and said House of the Devil, which is an old silent film from the 1890s. I was talking about you. What was I guess I need to reword that. So for those of you who did answer, it seems like The Conjuring, again, that makes sense. Considering when you were born, Conjuring seems to be the number one answer there. Got Bird Box, It, Saw, and then what you consider the scariest film of all time. Again, Conjuring, 10 of you said The Conjuring. And again, it was really the same movies: Bird Box, Quiet Place, a couple said Exorcist, The Boy, Hereditary, Veronica. I've never heard of that one, but it keeps coming up. I think it's a Netflix movie. Annabelle, Hush, and a few others. So anyway, that's you guys in a nutshell. So I look forward to you guys in the class, and I'll try to make sure I know I got some emails I need to answer. But other than that, good luck on the class, and I'll probably record maybe 1 or 2 more of these before the end of the semester. I try to stay out of it as much as I can, but anyway, good luck with everything. And I will see you guys later. See you guys.